we'll let Sue get her coffee, and then I think we'll get started. We'll welcome anyone who's coming in, just so we can get through our time this morning. But thank you all for coming again into our.
Those treats are still in there from last week. Should I get them out?
No, those little cupcake things, they were bad. They had gone. I pulled them out, and I threw. They were kind of. Their expiration date was January of 26.
Oh, really?
So I think
that makes that much difference in something like that, but
right. But John must have had them in his freezer or something, and then he brought them up. I think he had them in his freezer.
Oh.
And so then a week of not being in the even they
right.
were
no.
they were
okay,
not,
that's
they were
fine.
kind of there was some.
Well, he said to leave them reused Sunday, but we didn't need them.
So I went to pull them out, and they're like, oh no, I'm not gonna.
Okay.
So into the dumpster.
Sorry to interrupt with that.
We're not really on chapters, Deb. We talked the first week we really kind of talked about the Gray City, and last week we spent a little bit more time talking about the dynamics of once they left where they went after the Gray City, and talking about kind of our imageries of heaven and hell, and some of the implications of what Lewis is offering up as in difference to what we often kind of picture hell and heaven being. Because that's one of the key things that he's really trying to write, get us to think about here are the natures of these two things, of hell and of heaven. And people kept wanting to talk about the ghosts and the bright people, and we kept kind of moving away from that. So today we're going to be in lots of chapters. We get to talk about the ghosts and the bright people today. And look at a few of those interactions and what then is Lewis communicating with that. And welcome, Pat. So I'll start us today in a moment of prayer. Wonderful God, thank you so much for this good day and this chance again for us to come and spend time and talking about C.S. Lewis's The Great Divorce. God, we are grateful for the ways in which this conversation has piqued our imaginations, has encouraged us to think in new or different ways or challenging ways about things that we thought we understood or hadn't really thought about before, and helping us always drawing ourselves closer to you. We pray that this time and discussion will be fruitful and help us to bring glory to your name. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, so here we are. And I was just saying as you were coming in, we've spent a lot of time talking about hell and heaven and the dynamics of them, of what the Gray City was like, and what this great plain and green and forest and the water and the implications of Lewis's images here and the role of imagination. So today we're gonna start looking at some more of the interactions between the ghosts or the citizens of the Gray City and with the bright people, the people who have come down from the mountain area to come and meet them and greet them. Okay. So we're gonna look at that. But before we get into that, any thoughts or questions that anyone had that they want to lift up before we get started? All right, good. Okay, so we're going to take a look at a few of the interactions. We can't obviously read all of them and still have time to discuss them. But if you want to turn your books to, at least in my version, it's page 26. It would be chapter 4. For me, it's the second page of chapter 4 that we have. Lewis, hopefully all of you, if you've gotten into chapter 9 or chapter 10, and so you meet George MacDonald, right? Has everyone in their reading met George MacDonald? Okay, so George MacDonald is a real person. Is that author that piqued, that was writing fiction, writing things that piqued Lewis's imagination and helped bring him back closer to God. It's one of those reasons that Lewis is subtly saying, "I'm the narrator" here for that. So that's why I say Lewis. When I read this, he's putting himself into this situation. He's been just with the narrator is with the big man in the beginning of chapter 4, and so we're going to see the interaction of the big man with the real person who came and spoke to him. And so I'm just gonna quickly read some of this. It says, almost at once I was followed by what I had called the big man, so to speak, more accurately, the big ghost. He in his turn was followed by one of the bright people. "Don't you know me?" he shouted to the ghost. I found it impossible not to turn and attend. The face of the solid spirit, he was one of those that wore a robe made of what made me want to dance. It was so jocund, so established in its youthfulness. And there's one of those words that you might want to look up, but and the ghost said, "Well, I'm damned. I wouldn't have believed it. It's a fair knockout, isn't it, right, Len? What about poor Jack, eh? You look pretty pleased with yourself, but what I say is, what about poor Jack?" "He is here," said the other. "You will meet him soon, if you stay." "But you murdered him." "Of course I did. It's all right now." "All right, is it? All right for you, you mean? But what about the poor chap himself, laying cold and dead?" "But he isn't. I have told you, you will meet him soon. He sent you his love." "Well, I'd like to understand," said the ghost, is what you are here for. As pleased as Punch you are, a bloody murderer, when I've been walking the streets down there and living in a place like a pigsty all these years. That is a little hard to understand at first, but it isn't all over. It is all over now. You will be pleased about it presently. Till then, there is no need to bother about it." "No need to bother about it? Aren't you ashamed of yourself?" "No, not as you mean. I do not look at myself. I have given up myself. I had to, after the murder. That was what it did for me. And that was how everything began." "Personally," said the big ghost with an emphasis which contradicted the ordinary meaning of the word, "personally, I have had the thought you and I ought to be the other way around. That's my personal opinion." "Very likely soon shall be," said the other, "if you'll stop thinking about it." "Look at me now," said the ghost, slapping its chest, but the slap made no noise. "I've gone straight all my life. I don't say I was a religious man, but I don't say I had no faults, far from it. But I've done my best all my life, see? I've done my best by everyone. That's the sort of chap I was. I never asked for anything, and that wasn't mine by rights. If I wanted a drink, I paid for it. If I took my wages, I done my job, see? That's the sort I was, and I don't care who knows it. It would be much better not to go on about that." "Who's going on? I'm not arguing. I'm just telling you the sort of chap I was. See, I'm asking for nothing but my rights. You may think you can put me down because you're dressed up like that, which you weren't when you worked under me, and I only a poor man, but I got my rights, same as you, see? Oh, it's not so bad. I haven't got my rights, or I should not be here. You will not get yours either. You'll get something far better. Never fear. That's just what I want to say. I haven't gotten my rights. I've always done my best. I've never done nothing wrong. And I don't see why I should be put below a bloody murderer like you." It goes on for a while there. But this is one of the first. This is one of the first interactions between a ghost and a bright person that that Lewis shares for us. But what do we kind of gather in this interaction? What do you see happening?
I actually thinks he's better off than he is, or a better person. He should be a better person in God's eyes, and a higher rank in heaven than the other heaven. You know?
Well, he must know that there's,
Yeah.
he gets, I'm down there. I've been mucking around down there in a pigsty, and you've been up here dressed like this. What's going on? This isn't right. Okay, yeah. Anything else that you notice in this? Yeah, it's pretty on the nose a little bit. I mean, pretty stark. But what do you make about that? I mean, it's a pretty clear-cut challenge, right? To our order of things, don't we think?
But the murderer's changed since he's been there.
Right. Murder's changed since he's been there, but he's a murderer. And the other guy's a good guy.
In his eyes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's not perfect, but
But he didn't murder anybody.
But he didn't murder anybody. So why is he in the gray city, purgatory, hell, and the murderer in heaven?
Well, the murderer probably acknowledged to God what he did and asked for forgiveness.
Could be, yeah. He kind of, that's what changed it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He kind of said that.
Mm-hmm.
He
Yeah.
said that was just a moment in time. I murdered this guy,
Love.
but
Mm-hmm.
that changed me.
Yeah.
He says, but the bigger sin was I murdered you in my heart every day.
Every day. Yeah. So there's more, when he talks about how angry he was at how unjustly he felt the big man treated him as an employer and so on. Yeah. But it kind of challenges, oh, go ahead, Gretchen.
Well, I know. It kind of challenges our thought of the hierarchy of people going to heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this person is higher than this person, therefore God is going to pull me up there, and then I can keep on being good up there or whatever. He also mentions that he gave up himself. He gave up. You have to give up yourself.
Yeah, that idea of I gave up my rights.
I no longer have rights, and I no longer care whether somebody else is higher than me or not.
Right, yeah. So it's in some ways it's a very stark this gets right out there, and Lewis writes away is explaining in this interaction that the dichotomy between the selfishness and the self-centeredness, the self-choosing of the gray city, and the letting go of self in heaven. That this is very different. This is a key difference between the ghosts and the bright people. Is the ghosts are holding on to themselves, and the bright people are letting go of themselves.
They're
right?
basically granted grace then.
Right.
Right. We have that great definition of grace in that chapter of when he's talking about rights. He's like, I didn't get my rights, and I'm glad for it, and you won't either, and you'll get something a whole lot better because that by letting go of ourselves, we get grace. There's grace in that moment, yes. So, but this we've talked hierarchy, but what would you put yourself into let's use your imagination a little bit. Put yourself into the shoes of the big man. Is there somebody that if this was this is not what it will be like.
Yeah.
This is Lewis's imagination, but it might be a glimpse of what it could be like. We don't know. We've read other things about this. Other people have had similar kind of thoughts. If you were greeted in heaven by somebody to welcome you, Is there somebody that you would be very surprised to be greeted by? Hitler?
For one idea.
Yeah. So yeah, you
That's a
know,
good one, yeah.
Hitler or someone personal
Yeah.
to you
Mm-hmm,
that you would think, what is this person doing?
yeah.
Welcoming me into heaven.
I always get tickled because there are, some religions that say, well, there's only going to be X number of people there and it's us. And I thought, ooh, when they get to heaven, they're going to be so surprised, Hopefully they
Yeah.
get to heaven, but because, sorry, I thought I turned that off.
Okay.
Or even maybe people that say that believe Buddhism or the different religions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We don't know, really,
Yeah.
you know?
We're gonna save that topic
Okay,
for next week.
Oh, come on.
Right.
But yeah,
But if
exactly.
you like, yep.
You know,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
say, hey, because you believe it this way, or
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
believe
Yep.
different than me, you're wrong,
Yeah.
you shouldn't go there.
Yeah.
That's why I think we're cautioned, don't judge, over and
Mhm.
over and over. Don't judge because you don't know,
Mm-hmm.
their heart, their soul.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. Or the measure that you judge will be what.
Yeah,
how
that's
you are
even
judged.
scarier.
Yeah. Mhm.
So,
So-
yeah.
Go ahead, Gretchen.
Well, I just take 2 minutes for this because about this greeting thing.
Yeah.
My dad died when he was 63, and my sister, and I believe her immensely, who is very with the spiritual world, let's call it that way. You can believe it or not believe it. But after my dad died, she was at home alone, and he came into the living room, sat down in a chair, and talked to her.
Mm-hmm.
And she asked him how he's doing. He said, I'm doing fine. He says, one of my jobs is greeting people coming to heaven. And then he asked her to watch after mom.
Mm.
And they left.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Yeah. Yeah. There are more things that have happened and not happened.
Yeah.
That can be explained.
Yeah. I was sure going to say more things under heaven,
I mean,
and that's what I
that can be
was going to go. Just
explained
what
in
I
your-
was thinking.
In your philosophies,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
indeed, there is. So we don't know. This is all speculation. You can't do that. Even in the book, we'll talk a little bit about it next week. When Lewis, the narrator, is having his conversations with McDonald, his kind of conversations. There is that talk of, everybody's you can go on a holiday. Mostly they choose to go and haunt an old house they think is still theirs, or this or that. But we don't know exactly.
It's true.
What it's going to be and how's it going to be. But it is clear, both scripturally, that you're going to be in for a surprise if you think you have it figured out.
Yeah.
Lewis writes away here is challenging some of our assumptions about heaven and hell and about who's in and who's not. Clearly, the big man, the big ghost, was surprised to see Len's murderer there. Was Len the murderer, the guy who was murdered? Jack. Jack was Len is the murderer. Jack is the poor guy who got dead.
The murdered.
The murderee. That would be incredibly confronting. And Kathy, mentioned, Hitler. Hitler's always my example for when teaching about grace and salvation and the true meaning of the cross with kids and youth is because Hitler is kind of ubiquitously he's the most evil human we've ever collectively known in our modern knowledge, and Christ's grace is more than sufficient for even him.
And that's hard.
That is hard. that is hard, that there is the distinct possibility that Hitler is in eternal life in heaven. And that for a lot of people.
Judas too.
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, I guarantee, I know Judas for sure.
Yeah.
Right, you know, that can be some off-putting to people of saying, I can't believe in something where there's not justice. That can't be. Okay? That's kind of what the big ghost is emphasizing here. So how is what the big ghost is doing here selfish or self-centered?
Well, he's making judgments.
He's making the judgment,
Judgments.
right? Yeah. Mhm.
Judging himself too, that he's good enough, or he's, you know,
He's-
he's better than.
Everything was I.
Yes. I'm better than you.
Mhm.
I've never done that bad of a thing. You have done more than me. You know, it's that judgment thing. So sometimes, do you know anybody where at times in your life have you had that same kind of thing of it bothers me that so and so's doing that because, or gets that praise because I do more than they do.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
That's our human nature. We have to stop.
Yeah, that
Okay, wait.
comparison of our, you know, it's also a framing of our value, our worth over and against another, or a framing of our identity, our value and worth on what we've done or not done.
They were divorced. When they were 18, I knew they, you know, did this or that, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
human nature, sadly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the big ghost also, he couldn't forgive, right? He couldn't forgive what Len did, what the murderer did to poor Jake,
Mhm.
right? Because if he did, he would have to let go of that whole structure of I'm better than you, right?
Yeah.
So therefore, you're claiming it's a very subtle way, but it's often a way that even if you in the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus says there will be people who say, "Lord, Lord,
Yep.
I've known you for forever. I've followed you," and Jesus is like, "I have no idea who you are."
Yeah.
Right?
That's scary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's very
Yeah.
I
scary.
mean, it's easy to say, oh, well, no, but I didn't murder anybody, I didn't, you know.
Yeah.
I did all of the things better than everyone else, but have we met? You know, I mean, that's a
Whoa.
challenging thought, and there's a little bit of a challenge here. You know, since this is such a very easy, common place of human nature, that Lewis is pointing out here that there's very subtle levels here that we have to examine ourselves. Are you okay
Yeah.
if someone, the most evil person you think of,
Mm.
and there are evil people,
Oh.
right?
Yeah.
And Lewis also makes the point that if you struggle to choose anything other than yourself in life, you're really going to struggle to choose anything other than yourself after death, afterlife, right? But if you're not okay, oh, there's John. Hi, John.
Oh, hi, Dad.
The Spectrum man took longer.
Oh, no.
That's all right. It's
Hi,
good to,
Carlin.
good to see you both.
Come on in.
Carolyn, you be.
But I didn't forget the pastry.
Oh.
Oh.
Wow. So as we have that kind of that tension of having to look at, are we willing to let go of certain things of ourselves, that the right to forgive, to engage in that process? that this whole dynamic kind of lifts up for us. So as many of you mentioned at the beginning, going back and rereading would be good. So as you go at, start reading that interaction, you can see that anymore. Is there, before we move on to another interaction, is there anything else that you want to point out? But you guys kind of hit some of the.
I just want to reiterate the thing. I think it's really hard to forgive when you know the other person's wrong. I mean, it's really hard. You can just, and you know they're wrong,
Right.
but you still have to forgive them.
Mhm.
That's what God is asking us to do. And I think, therefore, when you've lived your whole life like that, how in the world, at the end of life, if you've lived your whole life like that, do you all of a sudden
Mhm. Mhm.
be able to forgive?
Yeah.
Anyway.
I was faced with that this past week. And the person said, I apologize.
Mhm.
And I didn't, it was a
thank you.
text, and I didn't respond right away. So then she wrote back again, I apologize. And I thought, what would a good Christian do? And I said, I accept your apology. Yeah.
Mhm.
But I didn't say this, but I'm going to behave differently from now on.
Okay. Yeah.
In what way? I mean,
Yeah.
was it in your interaction or with that person?
Well,
or?
with that person.
Okay,
I'm going
yeah.
to guard myself from them because.
Yeah, you can see that.
Not the kind of person that I should be associating with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you've, of course, this is simplified, but we do struggle to forgive when we know something is obvious or something is blatant. And Gretchen is also right. If we have chosen to practice our lives in a certain way, it becomes harder and harder. And that's part of the point of what Lewis is trying to make, is the choices of how we choose, what we choose in this life moves us in a direction.
Closer to Mother Teresa, right?
Mhm.
Closer to Mother
Oh,
Teresa.
yes. Right.
She's up there, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like I'm just bouncing off walls. People that, and lately it's really been true, people that have hurt my feelings, disappointed me, and the words I use are, I don't fit in.
Hmm.
And it makes me feel bad, but then the more I think about it, I think about all of you and all the kind, generous people I know, and that goes away.
Good. Because that's what,
Keep thinking about
that's,
us.
yeah, the
Yeah.
community of believers.
One bad apple can
Yeah,
certainly-
Well, it can doubt, it make you doubt,
It does.
and
If you are
and
something wrong with you.
yeah, and you just have to.
So it also lifts up that dichotomy of who forgiveness is for. That we often say you need to forgive someone who's hurt you. It's the forgiveness is not for them. It's for you who's been hurt.
Yes.
Because then that is a letting go of that.
Yes.
I am choosing to let go of that, holding that feeling for you.
Yeah.
And I'm letting go of my claim against you.
Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
going to let that go. I don't need to hold on to that. So you might say, oh, that's selfish, that's self-centered. But you're actually, you need to do that because it's, somewhat paradoxical. The more you hold on to something, the more it actually bends you into yourself.
I have had a
Okay.
situation back when I was very, very young, and it was a molestation situation, and the person had died, and I was Christian, but that always nagged me because I really cared about that person, and the preacher preached something that just touched my heart, and this has been several years ago. And it took me a while, but I tried, it's just like, oh, let me be able to forgive him. And then and then eventually, over a short term, I realized I was free of, so it works. If you're harboring, it doesn't matter if they're dead, you have to release that.
And plus Jesus was asked the question, how many times should I forgive?
Exactly.
And that entered my mind this
Yeah,
week too.
yeah.
All right,
I'm sure.
you can do it.
Yes, yes, yeah. So,
I always think of there's this great radio skit of this person, says, "Oh, I'm sorry, Bob. I did it again. I apologize." Nope, that is the 771st time. I don't have to forgive you anymore. You missed the point.
Yeah.
But he also brings up, it's good to recognize in ourselves of sometimes it's hard to forgive, as Pat lifted up. But we know it's important. But I can't forgive this. This is, and let's be honest, and Lewis, I think, would be one to agree with this. He's, that sometimes there are traumas, there are things that happen that, how could you? But what Pat was describing, there was also a great example of, okay, Jesus, help me. I want to, but I'm struggling to. Help me. And you were.
Yeah. Amazing.
But if you forgive, but you don't forget, is that,
where do
kinda
you have
wiping
that in the
that out?
Bible?
Yeah.
huh?
Where do you find that in the Bible? Who says that?
I don't know.
Right. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting.
Okay,
Loving doesn't mean liking. You are called to love everyone, but you are not called to like everyone. You are called to treat everyone with justice, mercy, and kindness, but that doesn't mean that you have to be a welcome mat and just let people beat you up and use you and this or that. I mean, think of the story, Shel Silverstein's The Giving Tree. That's lifted up as a great example of love, but what do we see in that? We see the tree that wants to love the little boy, and the little boy just takes and takes and takes and takes and takes until they both become something less. So that's not love. So part of what did the big, to put this back to the context of the story here, it would have been different if the big man was able to have forgiven the murderer. Said, yeah, I forgave you for that, but we were never able to be friends again. That's not what, there's a difference there between forgiving something, letting go of something, but also then saying, I can't be a part of that. That's okay. We're not called to be, it's why if you're in an abusive relationship, that's not what God wants for you. That's not glorifying God to stay in a situation where you are being consumed or abused, made to be constantly hurt and something that shrinks you and makes you little. No, that's not what God wants for you. We have to recognize that that's okay. Sometimes forgiving, like we say to our kids, we accept your apology. You are forgiven. We love you, but you're going to have to earn some trust back. So it just doesn't mean, because we have one of our kiddos developmentally right now, Cody is, if he says I'm sorry, then it's supposed to be all taken care of and better. No, that really hurt our feelings, what you said. We love you and we forgive you. We accept your apology, but we still need to heal. We need some time to let go of that. And that's a very hard concept for him, that it's not all magically just done and better, and then he can go on and continue to do whatever he was wanting to do that created the problem. So we do have to recognize that is a reality forgiveness. It's not just a forgive and forget, and everybody is better for that.
And actually, it
Like at
probably
school
hurts
when-
the person more, the person saying, I forgive you. If
Mhm.
they don't forget, it hurts them more.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mhm,
yeah.
mhm. Yeah.
Forcing someone to apologize to, like kids. I hit you. And so then my parent says, you need to apologize. If it's not coming from my heart, I don't think it's worth anything.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's
There's something there too.
Just
Yeah,
words.
it's just, yeah.
Yeah.
That
Usually,
some.
I'm sorry I got caught.
Yeah, sorry, I got caught, yeah.
I'm sorry, me hitting you in the face hurt you.
And it's a bit, I'm sorry if what I did was offensive to you. Okay, take the if out, otherwise it's not an apology.
Well, I'm sorry what I
If
did
you were offended.
offended you.
Yeah,
Is
exactly.
not even an
Yeah, it's not an apology. So.
yeah. So there's stuff to think about
Yeah.
there. But all of it comes down to that core of our sense of other and of self and so on. I won't read much one of it, but just shortly after this, there was another example, and maybe it was more interesting to me, but it was an exact moment of two clergy people talking together, in the next chapter or so, of the Episcopal bishop and one of the priests. If you remember that conversation, what is really neat about that is here we have a ghost who is the bishop, and the real person, or the bright, the bright one is just another priest, and they have a whole argument about this or that, but clearly the bishop believed in God, believed in Jesus, but why was he in the Gray City?
Mhm.
Well, you might remember that conversation.
Yeah, this is kind of hard because they're saying the bright person, I think his name is Dick,
Mhm.
said that, yeah, we had these conversations, but we were not intellectually, truthful is not the right word, honest. But it was
Sincere?
since.
Sincere.
Yeah, he says you wrote papers and you made a lot of money off of it, and you got the notoriety, and you liked that more than you liked
The subject.
the subject.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And he accused him of losing his faith.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
There was no faith, and he said, "Do you even really believe in God?" Well, maybe not.
I believe in the concept.
I believe in it, yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Yeah, it's
Even Satan believes in God.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really.
so it. I guess that would be really hard because if you're having these intellectual discussions, I don't know. He is accusing Dick. He says at the very end, you came to believe that there was a heaven and a hell,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't. This guy says I never did. I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So one of the common, like I said at the beginning, Lewis is a critic of the Enlightenment, which again, the Enlightenment, just in summary, put down is the idea that human progress, we will eventually, as human beings, we will progress to a place or a state with enough knowledge that we will be perfect. And it's just part of our evolution. Of that, and Lewis is a critic of this thought. And I said, of course, the great end of the Enlightenment philosophy is holding real merit came, kind of was blatantly put with the atomic bomb. It was like, oh, wait a minute. All we've gotten better at
Mhm.
is killing ourselves, and destroying things. It doesn't matter how smart we get, we still are capable of great things and capable of horrible things. It doesn't matter how enlightened we've become. And that's kind of what he's critiquing here, that faith can do the same thing. You can become so knowledgeable and so thoughtful, and you come up with all of these things. This is that you actually miss the heart of it. You miss the object of it, that there is something.
He actually accuses him of, like, if you go to heaven, you'll get answers. And the guy says, I don't really want answers.
Mhm.
I just want to debate.
Right,
Yeah.
right. It's the process, the argument.
Yeah.
And to him, that was, I'm being useful. There's the selfishness of him. I should really go back because I've got to write another article for our theology debate that we have every whatever, sometime they have this theology debate, and I really need to help these people out. And that's where I will do the most good, of all of that. Forgetting that, the object of his religion was himself and his own knowledge, and what he could do. I'd stay if there was something useful, if I was giving something useful to do.
And if only Christ had lived longer, he might change some of his views.
Yes.
Oh, okay, as he got
And
old, like
therefore,
we are.
and I think I know these views best, and will tell you what those
Yeah,
changed views are.
This is what,
Okay.
Well,
okay.
that presupposes that Christ was not God then.
well,
Yeah, I mean, as a
Yeah.
picture,
exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
He even kind of put down the resurrection.
Mhm.
Yes,
It was just.
It was
it's definitely a lot.
not
There are
meaningful.
theology. There are still
Well,
There
Peter
are
did-
still theologies out there that put down the divinity within Christianity, have put down the divinity of Christ, that put down the idea of the bodily resurrection all the time. You have to
That's faith.
watch out
Yeah.
for some of that, because
Watch out.
when it comes to it, then it's just making it easier for us to accept something or to explain something in our own rationality instead of being confronted with the question. And that's very hard. Okay, so that's a good one to read in that. But so far we've seen, there are other examples, other moments that we've seen in that of all of the bright people. They ultimately, or all of the ghosts ultimately reject the conversations with the bright people, not the white, but the bright people. We have the big man, we have the Episcopal bishop, we have that imagery of the guy who's trying to find the golden apple from the tree and stuff.
What is that?
Just read.
Oh, okay.
Just wanting that. He was I'm like, this is so good, I'm gonna keep this for myself. And trying to get it back to the bus, and he's just destroying himself, to do that.
So, okay.
But in a way, I kind of like the bishop. His motives may have been incorrect, but the man volunteered to go back to hell to help the people there see the right path. Now, I didn't say, that's a pretty strong belief in what you think you can help people when you're going back to, as this book puts it, hell.
Yeah.
You can't really dislike the person for having beliefs in his own words. I mean,
I don't think he was going, I understand what you're
Yeah.
saying, John.
Yeah.
I do
I think-
understand, but
I
I don't think he was going back to help people.
I think he made a very
Yeah.
foolish decision based on his own self-importance.
Right.
But just the same, regardless of the reason, when you volunteer to do something that's unpleasant, whatever, you lie to yourself or not, so that you can help other people, that's not all bad.
I don't think his object was to help people.
Yeah. Or just that self-love again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think he
If
wanted
it
to
was
go
me.
get adulation
It's-
or,
It's a
Or-
very subtle.
Yeah.
and he said that they're dumb anyway, so.
Well, he said, if you don't believe the prophets and you didn't believe Jesus and you don't believe the disciples, what is there? What is there left? And And he obviously thinks it's him, but
Well, he was very impressed with his self-importance.
Yeah,
yeah.
There's no question about that.
it's a subtle,
Yeah.
it's a very subtle thing that Lewis is writing there in that, at least in my opinion, that yes, you could look at it as I'm going there to be a missionary. I'm going there to set them straight. But here's the subtle things that you do have to, I want you to go back and reread it, John, and to think about it in a different way, because there's two things that the bishop is doing here. One is the way that what the bishop is trying to set them straight on, is that what is actually the truth? And he's being confronted with the truth in his conversation with the bright one, that there is a God, that there is a heaven and a hell, and it matters what you believe and what you say and do, more than just what you can argue. And two, many times, do we know anybody? Can you think of anybody who is a martyr? They do everything for everybody else, basically just to look good and look better than everybody else. And that is exactly what the bishop is doing here. He's going there not to help them, but to show them that they're wrong, to help to help them to think like him. And that's where he would be more comfortable, where he would be more useful, where he would have more, so he's not making an altruistic choice here. He's trying to pretend or show it as an altruistic choice, but he's choosing what it would make him comfortable.
Interesting.
Okay, so then there's multiple more interactions in which everyone, the people don't, choose to remain or go back to the bus, choose to go back towards, go back to hell. Okay, and I remember one of the week, like the first week or the second week, someone said, "Does anybody say yes?" And that's a repeated question that Lewis, that the narrator asked. Does anybody? Do they? When in chapters 9 and 10, when he's talking to the McDonald character, that does anybody stay? Can anybody stay? I want us to take a quick look at one of the first ones where someone does stay.
Is that the lizard?
Yes.
Make sense out of that for me, please.
Okay.
That's your book.
The man and the lizard, right?
What page are you on?
It would be, I'm in this version, it's like page 105, 106. He's just had, these are a series of, and the chapter is, let's see, I'll find that chapter. I think it's chapter 10 or 11. 11's the long chapter with
11,
McDonald.
yeah.
It's chapter 11. He's had the conversation, they've witnessed this mother, that's a hard one. This mother who wants to see her son, but can't. And it's her love for her son that is keeping her out. But yes, idols can be anything, right? So to give you sense, between the mother and her, the mother and her brother, it's her brother talking to her, but she just wants to see her Michael, her son. Why, she can't forgive God for taking him away from him, taking him away from her. And then the man and the lizard stallion episode. Both of them are examples of idolatry. If we're going to boil it down to a conceptual sin that we list here, would be idolatry. The mother loved her son more than anything. And in so doing, as Lewis puts out, there was a deficit of love. There was not an excess of love. And he's getting into natural love and but she idolized, and that becomes a truncated form of love. the man and the lizard the episode that we see happening after that, they're calling the lizard lust. But you could read almost any kind of addiction.
Yeah.
Anything that the man isn't just, yes, sexuality is a big thing, and physical sexual lust is incredibly powerful, and we know that can be is addictive, as well as anything else. So you can read that lizard story as any other thing that is addictive, any form of addiction, and those are simply, boil it down, an idol. The woman made an idol out of her son. The man made an idol out of sex, but it could be alcohol, it could be drugs, it could be, and I would even argue the bishop made an idol out of being intellectual and theological and pontificated. But we have this story of the man with the lizard here.
I
That
don't
we,
think John is the right book.
he has the right book. It's just hard to follow along when
Yeah.
he has to read through his reader here.
Yeah.
We have here. That's a different part that I was looking for. So just to save us on some time here, because I know the Voights are going to leave here. They're going to have to miss the best part. We have in this interaction the ghost that has this little lizard on his shoulder that's chirping in his ear.
Yeah.
It's okay. Let's just go back. I'll give you really nice and good dreams from now on. It'll be really good. Whispering in your ear, and you talk to some people who struggle with addiction, and it feels like that. They don't want to be controlled by this anymore, but yet it's like there's a little whisper in their head that says, "Gimme, gimme, 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 gimme."
Yeah.
That we have, but he's confronted by one of the bright people, but it's a different kind of a bright person. So Lewis is very general here. He's not making it a specific person. It's an angel who approaches the ghost and says, "I can kill that for you. Will you let me kill that?"
Yeah.
So we have this whole, it's an incredibly powerful moment where this man is wrestling with that. Well, I don't want it, but no one said anything about killing it. That's a whole different conversation. I just wanted to shut up,
Yeah.
just give me a moment's peace. Oh, I think it's quiet now. But killing it would be horrible. How would I live? It's going to hurt. And there's a great line in it when the angel says, "I never said it wouldn't hurt. I said it wouldn't kill you." That's a powerful image, and Lewis puts that, this is something central in Lewis's theologies, and understanding that following God does not mean not having pain, not struggling, and not hurting. That letting go of yourself and choosing wholeness, choosing God, is not something that is free from struggle, free from pain. There's a great scene in the Chronicles of Narnia where a character it's the book, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, where a character gets consumed by greed, and he's been very self-centered, and he gets turned into a dragon. And then one of the greatest baptismal images in all of literature is when this dragon boy named Eustace meets Aslan / Jesus in a pool of water, and Aslan slowly peels the dragon off of him by raking his claws through the dragon's scales. Finally, he's at the end of it, is a boy again and no longer a dragon. But it was an ordeal to go through. And Lewis is saying, faith is letting go of yourself is not a simple flip of the switch here. It's something that does have a cost, does have an effect, and is not to be taken lightly. And it shows again that if you can't let go, again, of all of the ghosts before, they couldn't choose to let that go, to go through that. So it was easier for them, more comfortable for them to be able to go through, to go backwards and to step away from that discomfort.
That's when they'd go back to the bus.
They'd go
Yeah.
back to the bus, right? And we'll see that if you haven't read the final interaction, the Sarah Smith story, interaction, chapter 13, 12 and 13, following, you see that even more painfully in that story, that image, of what that does, that of not being able to choose to let go of something. But the angel says to the guy, it won't kill you, and challenges all of the guy's excuses. Eventually, he gives the angel permission. Damn it and blast you, he says. Go on, can't you get it over with? Do what you like, bellowed the ghost, but ended whimpering, God help me. God help me. And the angel takes the little lizard that was his lust and his addiction, kills it, rents it, and breaks it, throws it on the ground, and then there's this great moment. I'm on page 111 if you're in this copy here of it's done and you can't see any. Lewis is looking, he can't see anything. He says, for a moment I could not make out nothing distinctly. Then I saw between me and the nearest bush unmistakably something solid growing every moment, even more solid. The upper arm, the shoulder of a man, then brighter still and stronger the legs and hand, the neck and golden head materialized while I watched, and if my attention had not wavered, I should have seen the actual completing of a man, an immense man, naked and not much smaller than the angel itself. What distracted me was the fact that at the same moment something happened to the lizard. At first I thought the operation had failed because it was supposed to be killed, but it turns into this huge, majestic stallion. And eventually the man hops on the stallion and they go riding off, thundering towards the mountain. Okay, so Ghost chose something not to go backwards and to go forward here. And make sense of the lizard thing. That's John's question.
Well,
So
my feeling is there's a symbolism there that now that the lizard is a stallion and the man is a large human, he gets on the stallion and rides off to heaven. I got the feeling that this is supposed to mean I'm now in charge of my addiction.
Absolutely, could be.
That's what it meant to me.
That the roles are reversed.
Yeah.
That no longer is the addiction riding on the man is riding on the addiction. It also talks about many of the things that we struggle with and we understand.
I want to hear it.
I do have
many of the things that twist us and that consume us, like the man was saying here, lust, the man's sensuality and his desire for physical and sexual pleasure. These are good gifts of God. Many of these things that consume us, that become idols, are good gifts and are redeemable. Some of our addictions are not. I don't think there's a redeeming of drugs, but there's more to it than that. But parts of that can be redeemed. And it wasn't that the desire for what the lizard represented, was now driving and consuming the man. The man now understood that this was just a part of what it meant to seek after God. And the man was redeemed in this moment, became real by letting go of that and realizing he couldn't do it. He had to actually turn to somebody else and be willing to let go of what was the most precious, the most thing that he thought was the most meaningful thing that gave him the most pleasure and meaning and satisfaction. He had to be willing to let go of that and let someone else handle that. And then he found, in that event, he found fullness. So that's a very condensed moment for that.
I have a favor to ask, because the retreating a little bit, but if any of you have read the chapter of the Scottish author and teacher,
Yes.
I've read that chapter twice, if not 3 times, and is esoteric the correct word? I can't figure that chapter out. It goes off in so many different directions. It's the narrator and the person
Yep.
that he has much respect for.
That's gonna be next week.
Oh, that's right. Oh, my head.
So read it once more.
No.
Yeah,
Because that's a killer chapter. I'll warn you in advance.
Yeah. It is.
Scare you away.
yeah.
It is, and I will not guarantee that I can answer everything about it, but that is almost part of the pinnacle of the conversation of the book, is those interactions between the narrator and the Scottish teacher, George MacDonald, for that, and getting into actually some of Lewis's. He's having an argument with someone he can't have an argument with anymore. Someone who will bring him back to faith, but Lewis wants to challenge some of the things that man said, had said, and wants to have that interaction. And you get to see and hear a glimpse of what that might have been like as Lewis tries to engage that, because this person had passed away at Lewis's time, right? So he couldn't have that.
You said it really
Conversation.
was an author. at the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
So maybe if you knew more.
This
of
was,
his-
this person represents the author of these books, like the fantasy and the scientificism, science fictionism that he references were real texts that were written, that were influential to Lewis's journey back to faith. That's, we'll talk about that, because that kind of sums up some of all that we've been talking about here. The next interaction that I really want you to pay attention, of course, is kind of one of the main final interactions, and that's the Sarah Smith story. And this is actually the story that I told Deb, that got her to read this, and then came back and said I should teach, but we should have a class on this. So this is, in chapter, 13, 12, and 13 and following, we have this story of this beautiful woman. This, Lewis, he says, they've just had the interaction with the lizard and the stallion, and he's like, is there another river? He sees this huge procession of children and animals and everything coming through the forest, and he sees this woman who's just spectacular. He's like, I can't even, the weight of her face, can't even, remember. It's overwhelming. Can't even tell if she's naked, then it's because the clothes can't truly, cover her, or if she's clothed, it's, she's just immaculate. And the teacher, MacDonald, says she's one of the highest ones. And it turns out she's just some lady named Sarah Smith. Not a real person, like MacDonald is representing, but just like the most common name in America is John Smith. What would be the most, just an ordinary woman.
I don't know, maybe I'm ahead. There's also the woman who elects not to go to heaven because the people there aren't up to her standards.
Oh, yes. There's lots of interactions. Yeah.
That was a good read. I understood that.
Yep. There's lots of things that we can picture ourselves or other people in this. But, in the Sarah Smith interaction, we have yet again another ghost choosing not to come back. Or not to go on, but chooses to go back towards hell. And we see, this person who, this dwarf and large man, and he calls him the tragedian, an actor. That we have this, but there's some really neat things as you read Lewis's descriptions about Sarah Smith and what she's saying that is quite meaningful and significant, something to really spend some time thinking about. How they describe, how she described every child, every boy or girl that she met became her son, her daughter. She gave something of herself to each of them, and that they would be able to go home from their home, from an encounter with her and love their parents better because they had been loved by her. Every bird, every animal, every part of creation was cared for by her in some way, made better. And Lewis saying, even husbands would look upon her and see and be in some way able to love their wives better because of that interaction. But yet we had this one person here in her life that just couldn't receive that love. And it explores that dichotomy that we talk about, needing and wanting people in our lives. And she's like, all this dwarf, all this man, the ghost wanted in this interaction was for her to say she needed him. She's like, I don't need you. I am actually in love. I don't need you or anything. But she says, but I want you. And there's a big difference. There's a very subtle tension there. So often we talk about things in our lives and world about the difference between wants and needs. Our kids want all kinds of things. They want whatever they see on TV, but you really only need something. What is it that you really? And here Lewis kind of flips that for us. That in this situation, this woman didn't need anything because she is full and complete in the love of Christ. But she still wants. But her need implies something lacking. Right? But she wasn't lacking anything. She wanted her husband, who is the ghost, to come and be a part of it and experience that and live with that, but she didn't need him to. And then you have Lewis, after this, gets into a very philosophical conversation about pity and the difference of this. So I know we don't have time to unpack that all, so we'll get into a little bit of that today, but I encourage you to go back and read those final chapters, that interaction of Sarah Smith again, and just let some of that fill you, because that's probably one of a great of what Lewis is trying to communicate into this, that will help us understand the esoteric conversation about heaven and hell and salvation that is happening in the McDonald chapter, that we will explore about. What about, do we get to make a choice after we die? Can anybody? What do you have to do to be saved? Do you just really have to be a good and selfless person, or is there something else here? And if you read the story of Sarah Smith, you're kind of seeing in this a story of somebody who chose faith beforehand. She lived the love of Christ in the best she could in her life on earth, that it became second nature and perfected in her life in heaven. For us. So that, spoiler alert. But
some of his writing is so subtle. It's a small part of the book. I got the big kick out of the greed one, where the man comes from hell and he's picking up these gold apples, and he finally finds a tiny one that he's actually able to pick up, and he's going to take it back to hell and the greed factor has blinded his intelligence because everything in hell is for free. All you have to do is imagine it.
Mhm.
So how are you gonna sell this golden apple when nobody's gonna buy it in the first place?
Yeah.
You know,
Right,
I mean, to me, that's a pretty subtle comment
Right.
if you look into it, you know.
Well, then the next,
I hadn't
Right,
thought about
right, and
that.
then
You
the
could
next-
just
The
wish it down
stupidity
there.
of greed.
yeah, and then the
That's
next
good.
part at the end of the Sarah Smith, chapter,
Yeah.
you find out that, the cliff and the bus that they came up in would
Yeah.
fit through a tiny little speck or crack in the dirt.
Yeah, yeah.
The apple wouldn't have fit.
Oh, no.
There's I see some humor in
Yeah.
some of this
Right,
writing.
right. So, yes, this is not a book that, once through and you get the answer. No.
Yeah.
Nor is Lewis is simply saying there is a single answer here. These are all things that are designed to get us to think and ponder, to reflect on ourselves, to put ourselves into both both sides of the equation. Because it's very easy for us when we want to read like something like this. Well, clearly we would have said yes. But I know many times that I probably, that of little lizards on my shoulder that I haven't let be killed. So it's times for us to stop and reflect on those. What would it mean for me? Who do I think is not good enough to be in heaven? That I'm better than and would be shocked and angered and ready to go my own way if they were there. So take some time, reread some of the interactions again. Is there one that you're drawn to as you read them? Is one that sticks in your craw? Like the bishop, like that.
Yeah.
Ask why does it bother me? That I think he might. What's wrong with what he was saying?
Feels like it's not fair.
Right.
Mhm. Yeah.
Could be. Yeah, it's not fair.
Having that discussion. with
There's
my
nothing fair about grace, is
stepdaughter
there?
the other
No,
day with her,
gosh.
her son's having some issues, and she's like, it's just not fair, he's the good kid, he's the one that's making all the good choices and all this bad stuff. I said, where did you get the idea that it's supposed to all be fair?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, life isn't.
Jesus said, "The rain falls on the fields of the wicked and the righteous."
Yep.
So go through, read them again as you can. But there's a lot in those, and those are moments again for us to reflect on and to ponder and to think about. But yes, there is something Lewis is trying to communicate here that we'll get into